Looking for a new place to travel? Imagine a place beyond the reaches of your own mundane life. A place you can escape the everyday rigors of work, bills, and stress. Come, my friends. Join me as I take you to a place hidden from the known world. A world with scenic mountains, rocks, and dirt. Oh look, and a dancing Godzilla. Join me and escape to the future. Join me and escape.
Acknowledging the 60th anniversary of Invasion of Astro Monster, aka Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, or just simply Monster Zero, Bandai hath blessed us with quite the showpiece. But before we delve into that, I'll do a quick reference to the uniqueness of this said item. Godzilla's fifth movie is, much like its predecessor, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, not a starring role for the kaiju. Yes, he's the prominent monster, and the most recognizable of the three in it, but he does share billing with Monster Zero himself, Ghidorah, back from his self-titled film, along with Rodan. The film is a sequel in the sense that it follows the film that came before, and that all the humans clearly know who Ghidorah is. Mothra is absent from this turn for some unknown reason, and the film itself takes a hard sci-fi pivot, now having aliens borrow Godzilla and Rodan from Earth to have them defeat the space dragon who has invaded their homeworld of Planet X, a celestial body that has been hidden in the shadows of Jupiter. While I'll delve deeper into that film in its own retrospective, the scene that this new Bandai release pulls from occurs after the Zillion, the inhabitants of Planet X, sit Godzilla and Rodan on the three-headed monster on the surface of their world. It's a great but short fight with Godzilla and Rodan triumphant once again over Ghidorah, sending him fleeing elsewhere to lick his wounds. Upon that victory, Godzilla performs a move dubbed the Shade, which comes from a manga, according to the amazing book A Critical History and Filmography of Toho's Godzilla series by David Kalat, titled Aso Matsu-kun, in which one of the characters frequently poses in the same manner. I'm uncertain about the context in which this was utilized, but it's very popular at the time, and even Nick Adams participated. That moment, more than ever, signaled a turning point for the King of the Monsters' trajectory, and then how he'd be portrayed in future films. No longer an atomic anti-hero to be feared, now a lovable goof who could kick the ass for the betterment of mankind. It's a silly thing to insert in the middle of a decent sci-fi flick about aliens snarling at our doorstep, but despite how you feel about the film, it was likely one of the few memorable scenes from it. And Bandai certainly has, capitalizing on it by immortalizing Godzilla in vinyl in mid-sheet. Is this an acquisition worth jumping up and down over? Well, join me and escape! This is a two-piece set. Yes, that's the first thing I wanted to mention. That's obvious. Godzilla, aka the Daisenso Goji, comes with a piece of Planet X, specifically a mountain to which his pose can rest upon. It's molded in a muted dark sandy brown to convey the barren landscape of Planet X. There is no real added flourish to the piece, as its purpose is to give a nice complementary visual to the main attraction. And speaking of which, this figure's base color is similar to the Bandai's recently released Godzilla 1964, the Mosugoji. It is a gray hue that leans into a greenish tint, less charcoal and more ash. It fits well with the screen's color palette that gives Godzilla that same lighter shade of the early 1960s color films. Light mint green sprays grace his knees, heavily accentuated here due to the focus of his movement and the sternum line, a commonality he shares with many of his Bandai cousins. This color also shows up again at the tail, highlighting his smaller dorsal ridges, and in a rare display completes the trail to his tail tip. In an interesting observation this time is that his larger dorsal plates on his upper back are accentuated with a lemony yellowish color. Usually, as for most figures, resort to a white or a silver choice, but it really drives home that film color palette once again. Turning him forward again, we have that same yellow color which is used on the nails of the 64 figure, repeating that motif here, but bleeding more onto where the claws meet the skin, both on the hands and the feet. White does its usual duty of eyeball assignment, as well as his individual teeth. Nicely done, as for some time, teeth were slathered with the color on many figures instead of precise selection as we have here. A warm yellow iris is a new feature, And while my memory didn't recall it immediately, I then thought of the shot where his eyes roll back and forth once freed from Zillion control. Black is used for his pupil, but no eye shine dot here. And his gums, tongue, and inner mouth cavity is painted in a nice muted burgundy red. Look at the sculpt now, starting back at the base stand, made to resemble the rocky spires, I wouldn't call them mountains, of Planet X. The texture and details make me think of shale stone with smooth surfaces and angular cleavage. Yes, that is a geological term. Instead of a more organic surface that we think of with trees and other foliage. The central area is carved out to accommodate Godzilla's tail and right leg to rest upon, and a higher stump is present in the front to help support his lifted left leg. The overall base is hollowed out from beneath and calls back to those high-grade mini diorama sets that Bandai occasionally releases. This Godzilla is interesting when compared to the previous Showa figures. The overall texture is similar to tree bark, less keloid scarring save for his face, which sports a more scarred surface on a broad, flatter head than what's come before. This is most evident with the size of his mouth, which is wide and toothy, with his tongue far more visible than what's been done in the past. His head ridges are subdued, and his smooth brows are raised up to help show off his big expressive eyes. The bridge is shorter here, as is his little pug nose, complete with nostrils. The underneck has a change in texture too, and showcases subtle suit wrinkles, while the sternum line is also a different surface texture compared to his surrounding torso. The main body also features suit depressions, pushing the accurate bagginess of this version's costume. His arms are both sculpted to create the she pose, bent at the elbows but inward towards his center. Lifted, he looks like he could be yelling, and lowered gives him the impression that he's hungry or has a bellyache. His 3 fingers on each hand along with the thumb, slightly cupped. Legs are also positioned for the she. The right leg is more straight and bent at the knee, and the left is bent more inward. The feet are spectacular. No flatter, wide-toed claws like 64's. These are plumper and more natural looking. The dorsals are big and spaced out wonderfully, with the side dorsals feeling more pronounced than usual. The spines are rounded, and the sensors have that sandy surface we usually get here. Lastly, the tail arcs downward at the base and does a sharp pivot up and bends ever so slightly to his right. Because this is specific to a moment in the film, Godzilla is positioned in a way to achieve this pose. This hinders variety in terms of displaying him without his stand, which the overall effect heavily relies on. Arms can move at the shoulder, but cannot achieve a full 360, as the bent inward posture gets blocked by the time you rotate them towards his backside. But as stated before, you can still get some comical poses depending on how you synchronize them. The standard pose shown most is that the left arm is raised towards his head and the right mid-center. The legs are trickier because it is crucial for the she dance as well. This limits any 360 movement at all with the right, and the left having the most clearance, but not really accomplishing much in reason. You can get him to stand independently from the rock base, but it will look like Godzilla's in mid-run, which isn't too bad, just a tad awkward, because his arms can look like he's cradling a baby if positioned flush forward. No head movement, no surprise, as well as a static tail, which has movement sculpt-wise. And in the end, we're all likely going to have him frozen in this intended manner. And what I love about this set is that it brings a nice variety to my Godzilla lineup. I anticipate a standard 65 will be released, or will they call it 66? They're very similar save for the trashiness of the Ibra version, and the condition appeared to be on screen. Side note, the she pose can be reversed in the alternate position, but cannot be supported by the base. Starting with his predecessor from 1964's Mothra vs. Godzilla, we have the 2 suits in succession right here. Obviously, the Muscle Goji looks a lot slimmer and a lot more menacing, which is the turning point for the Daisenso Goji, the 1965 right here in question. Also, you notice that there is a wider girth with this suit due to his bagginess on screen. He seems a bit larger when you have him standing side by side, and I don't know how accurate that is to the 2 suits. Focusing on their heads, you can see the big difference between the sculpts on their faces, and I didn't realize how different they looked now until I have these 2 figures next to each other, with one more of a scowling appearance and the other one a little bit more chipper.
Dorsal plates are also different. Obviously the colors I mentioned before, but also the sagginess of the Daisenso Goji reflects the bagginess of that design. As well as the feet. However, like I mentioned before, the Moso Goji's feet more flat and wide-toed. Colors on their body are similar, but now that I have them close in hand, Moso Goji appears a little bit more green, while Daisenso Goji has a little bit more of a blue. Very nice to add to the collection of Godzillas I already have. Rodan, a monster that's always been seen with this version of the Godzilla suit, from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster to Invasion of Astro Monster, is a fitting pairing, even though this is the 1956 version. Although both look really good together, I suspect the 1964 Rodan should be coming up soon too, and hopefully he stands a little bit taller than this version of Godzilla, as on screen he looked like he was a head taller than our King of the Monsters. Both of them look great together. They look like they're ready to take on Ghidorah or, debate humanity with Mothra. Colors are beautiful with both of them paired up. I hope this carries over to the 64 release. The crazy crustacean villain from Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, Iburo, one of my top favorite villains, is also one who shared the screen with this version of Godzilla, albeit Godzilla's suit was a little bit more ratty by that point. But these two look really good, and they scale really well too. It's really exciting when you start getting these figures coming out where you compare them up and really recreate what you see on screen. The two of them battling in the ocean would be really fun to do, and especially this figure, you don't really have to worry about the what's going on the waist below, but his arms are kind of curved in a way where you can grapple with Iburo like I'm doing right here. Pretty fun. This is an exciting time to be a fan of Bandai vinyls because we're getting some really neat stuff put out, and I have to give them credit for doing a figure so unique like this one. It really breaks up the monotony of all the Godzilla figures that you have that are in their standard poses. But I'm also curious though what you would think and what Jet Jaguar. Take it away, Jet. Four stars is spot on in my opinion. While some may see this as an upscaled high-grade piece, I personally think this would spice up anyone's shelf filled with standard posed Godzillas. The big detractor being its limited display focused on a specific movie moment. But on the flip side, it is the perfect representation of the movie it is culled from, leaving a standard 1965/66 figure for maybe an Iburo set. With the success of this figure's intent, I look forward to future Bandai Pose themed finals in this line. What's your opinion? Sound off in the comments down below. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe on the way down. Thanks for taking the time to watch my review. I'll be back with more Godzilla reviews and related vinyls on Showa Showcase. Take care. Ugh. What the f***?